What up guys, it's Shorty Sensei and I am here today to talk about the anime Vinland Saga, specifically season 1. I know season 2 is out right now, but today we are only talking about season 1 of Vinland Saga. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into my review of Vinland Saga. One of my favorite things about Vinland Saga is actually going to be the opening theme at the very beginning of the first season. It is just so gripping. I think honestly, you guys just watching the intro of the Vinland Saga anime season 1 will show you the emotions that are really behind the entire season. Whether it's the instrumentation, it is a little bit of a screamo song. It's very hard rock and roll. It really does a great job of showing the emotions of the show that you're going to see and our poor main character. The visuals of the intro can give you just enough of the story to be really interested and to get a glimpse of all of the main characters without really spoiling anything. I know a lot of people out there are actually against watching anime intros and even outros because they spoil things in them. Like in the first episode, if you actually watch the intro, they will show characters that you're going to see like 12 episodes from now. Not everybody really wants to be spoiled that badly. But I do highly recommend if you're interested in the anime, just go watch the intro, Mukanjio. I'm obsessed with that song. Listen to it every day in the car, like literally every day. Every day. You think I'm kidding? You can watch Vinland Saga on Amazon Prime, Netflix, HiDive, and Crunchyroll. Let's start with how I would classify Vinland Saga. What is it even about? Is it a slice of life? Is it a shonen? Let's talk about it. Right off the bat, this anime is about death, war, death, things you are not going to see in this anime, comedy, romance, lighthearted moments. But I will say, for a show that has darker themes, there is no gore. This one does not have any like really nasty moments that make me kind of turn my head and go, ew, gross. I would say Vinland Saga actually falls into a category that I myself am not super fond of, which is history. It was like my worst subject in school, and now I'm watching an anime about Viking history. It is going to follow a lot of actual Viking lore, and if you look up the names of some of the characters, you could actually get spoiled on the story that is going to happen because you will already know these characters from history. Vinland Saga was animated by Wit Studio. So knowing this, we know there was a budget for this anime, they had really big plans for it, and that the battles needed Wit Studio for their beautiful and perfect animations, especially when it comes to fight scenes. So this anime is pretty much about Vikings, hence why it's about death and war. It's set in England in about 1013 AD. Our main character is a little boy named Thorfinn and his dad named Thors and his family, and then he goes off and becomes a warrior himself, right? So this is like your typical, you would think maybe your typical shonen story. Boy looks up to his father who was a great warrior, and he goes out and sets off on his own journey to become a great warrior himself, right? Wrong. The story centers around a little boy named Thorfinn who was born in Iceland, and he and his family live in the freezing cold place that is Iceland. Obviously things aren't going very well. They are hungry, they are starving. It's a very small village. His family's ultimate dream is to find Vinland, or Finland, Finland. Yes, where there's truly greener pastures, more hope for a better life, a warmer climate, and land that will actually be able to sustain a people. And above all, peace. Let's talk about some of the main characters you're going to see in Vinland Saga. So we're starting with our main character, Thorfinn, our little blonde boy. Thorfinn is the son of Thors. Thorfinn starts out as just a very happy-go-lucky boy who truly looks up to his insanely strong and great father, Thors. This is the manliest of men you will ever see. Thors was one of the strongest and most talented Jomsvikings there was. So he is very, very reputable. People know him from all of the battles that he faced with his time as a Viking. But he eventually got sick of the death, sick of the destruction, and he defected from the Jomsvikings to live a peaceful life, away from war and away from death, and really devoted himself to just living in peace. It seems that Thors has really been through a lot in all of his battles, and he's finally just had enough. He doesn't see the value of the spoils of war. But eventually he is faced with some adversaries as he's living his peaceful life in Iceland. But instead of killing them, he just knocks them unconscious. So if this tells you anything about what kind of person Thor aims to be, he's aiming to be an overall good person. He wants to fight for the good of the people and to just have peace. But if he's forced to take people out, he's going to take them out. And he can do it with literally his pinky finger. This dude is so strong. One of the next characters you're going to meet after Thor's is Askeladd. People say Askeladd or Askeladd, but in the English dub, they say Askeladd. So Askeladd is kind of, to me, the opposite of Thor's. He is sly, he is cunning, he is ruthless, and also, unfortunately, with all of those things, he's very charismatic. Like, he knows how to talk his way through a situation and to get it to work in his favor. Askeladd is a master swordsman and tactician, which is a really, really bad combo to have for the antagonist of the story. Askeladd and his crew go around raping, pillaging, and murdering entire towns of people. So obviously, this man is not good. He will do anything he is asked to do as long as it works out for himself in the long run. Then we have one of my most favorite characters of the show. I think this guy is probably a lot of people's favorite character. The second he comes on screen, you're going to love him. And that is Thorkel. Again, we've got Thorfinn, son of Thors. Thors is the dad, Thorfinn's the son. Thorfinn is technically the main character here. Okay, you keeping up? Thorkel is different. We have Thorkel the Tall, this smiling, grinning, goofy, freaking huge Viking. Thorkel is up there with Thor's as far as skill and strength goes. He is also considered one of the strongest Vikings out there. Thorkel, unlike Askeladd, has a very different personality and a very different warrior code. Whereas Askeladd tends to be more ruthless and will kill without a second thought, Thorkel, on the other hand, is a true warrior, a little more similar to Thor's in his morals, where he just wants to be a good warrior. He goes, he does the job, he gets out. He's not interested in fighting civilians. He's not interested in killing all the people. He just kind of wants the spoils of war. He wants to be able to say, I fought these strong people and won, and I get the money and I get the food. Like, that's it. He's just a jolly dude who happens to be really freaking strong and could kill you with his pinky finger. Thorkel is one of those typical anime characters who loves fighting. If he sees a true adversary and someone he sees as worthy, he gets all kinds of excited and he wants to fight. You can assume by now that we are going to see some very, very cool battles that involve Thorkel and duels and things of that nature. And they're so good. I mean, Wit Studio. One of the more important characters of the story that comes along a little bit later is Canute, or Prince Canute. Some people actually even mistake Canute for being a girl because of his feminine features, but he is indeed a boy. Prince Canute is not your typical prince. He is very kind of shy and soft-spoken. He doesn't seem to be too interested in running the whole country. He doesn't seem to want to rule with an iron fist. He would rather lead with his Christianity, his morals, and speaking rather than dropping the hammer like Thor. Terrible joke. I'm so sorry. Without giving any major story spoilers, I can tell you the gist of what this show is going to be about and what you're going to see of our main character, Thorfinn. I will tell you that at the beginning of the show, Thorfinn starts out as like a little boy, and we do get to see his progression as he grows into like basically a man. I can safely say Vinland Saga is definitely a type of a coming of age story. Now, whether you like it or not, that's a different story. Thorfinn does make some pretty terrible decisions. Overall, Vinland Saga tackles quite a few themes. War versus peace. Does there have to be war to ensure peace? Can you have peace without war? If you're peaceful, is war going to come upon you anyway? Another really strong underlying theme in the story, of course it being a coming of age story, is change. How people change over time. The triggers and the reason people change, and are you changing in a way that's faithful to how you want to truly be? This show makes me do a lot of self-reflection. I feel like Thorfinn, our main character, becomes just very angsty and very angry throughout the story, and he loses himself. He starts out as this just sweet little kid and becomes this angsty little teenager who becomes the opposite of what his father is and what he admired so much. Sacrifice is another really important theme this show tackles. What are you willing to sacrifice to have peace? What are you willing to sacrifice in the midst of war to have a favorable outcome? Are you willing to sacrifice your own morals and who you are to get the job done? And another theme that comes about a little more toward the end of the season is guilt and remorse. There are many characters, including just little side stories, not even involving our main characters, where guilt, sin, remorse play a huge role. People doing things that they regret. There are people who regret not doing anything in the moment. So guilt and remorse have a lot to do with the show as well. All right, so here are the pros and cons of Vinland Saga. The cons. There is no comedy, no romance, no lighthearted moments. This show just goes. It is dark and intense. And for me personally, that is a con. I think every anime that is just really dark in nature needs to have something in there to help offset it. The intense moments don't need to be ruined by something like comedy. But I do think sometimes the show is just so heavy, and depending on the mood you're in, you may not be ready for all those really big intense feelings that you're going to experience. One of the things that probably makes people the most upset about this show is that our main character, Thorfinn, makes so many bad choices. I mean, almost the entire season is him being an angsty teenage idiot and doing things that we don't approve of. But I think something you have to remember in a story like this is that it's a coming of age story. Think of yourself in middle school. Did you make good choices? Are you proud of all the things you did and said? Probably not. Although I hate the fact that Thorfinn becomes such an incredibly unlikable character throughout the story, we're all still rooting for him to finally have his wake-up call. Like, where's your wake-up call moment for you to realize that you're doing probably the opposite of what you fully intended to do? Now, some of my favorite things about Vinland Saga are the awesome battles. When the battles happen, they are animated just mwah. They're not your typical anime battles. In fact, I would say that this show in general doesn't follow almost any typical anime tropes. If you're looking for jiggling boobies, waifus, husbandos, like fan service, you're not getting it. This anime is very, very original in the sense that it doesn't follow anime tropes. I know I said one of the cons is that Thorfinn's an unlikable main character, but the rest of the cast is like way better. Even Ashalad, who is technically the antagonist, we kind of like him. Thorkel is also an antagonist, but we kind of like him too. He's kind of my favorite character. So it's just really interesting that the side characters play such a very important role in helping Thorfinn grow up and become the man that he's ultimately supposed to be. Instead of giving this review a number, like a scale of 1 star to 5 star, a 1 to 10, we're going to do a whole new scaling system in rating this anime. Dumpster fire would be the absolute worst. Next is going to be background noise. Is this just an anime you'd put on in the background and just kind of live your life? Or is this sensei approved? Is this like good? I'm going to recommend it to people. Or is it binge worthy? You could watch every episode in like a day, which I have done. Or is it life-changing? Life-changing is going to be the very, very, very top, being an anime that literally changed your life. You would recommend 100% to almost anybody. And I feel like that category, not a lot of shows are going to be in there. As far as Vinland Saga goes, is it a dumpster fire? Absolutely not. If you are not patient, you may not enjoy a lot of this show because it does kind of take some time to get up and going. You see Thorfinn's childhood, then you see his middle childhood, and then you see his teenage years leaning into adulthood. So if you're not patient, you may think it's a dumpster fire, or you might think it's background noise. I am actually going to go ahead and call Vinland Saga binge-worthy. It's not just sensei approved, it is binge-worthy, and here's why. Vinland Saga is an anime that begs to be binged. Vinland Saga is not an anime I would have wanted to watch, or I would have kept watching if I had seen it when it first aired, watching one episode weekly, because it does have a kind of slow start, but when the catalyst moment happens and things really push forward, that's when you're gonna really want to binge it and see what happens. It gets really exciting about episode 3 and 4. The journey is so worth it. Somehow, Vinland Saga gripped me. When I finished binging the show yesterday, it's very fresh in my mind. I finished binging the last 10 episodes in one afternoon. It just gripped me and I could not find a place where I could stop. I just had to keep going. As much as it was frustrating to watch Thorfinn struggle, It's also very satisfying to watch his growth. Not quite life-changing, but definitely binge-worthy. Alright guys, I hope you liked this video and this new style of reviews for the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please go ahead and give it a like down below and let us know in the comments what show you'd like us to review next. Thank you Weebs and Waifus for all the support, and we'll see you again in the next one. Bye!